Totally Football Show European edition. Today, Liga. Barca looking fancy with Hansi. How Flick got side slick quick. Bundesliga. Bayern get upended. How RB Leipzig finally ended Leverkusen's record run. Serie A. Alien Romelu strikes. Call him Alien Romelu as Lukaku gets in Parma's face and Napoli finally peel off Osimhen. They'll xenomorph of him. Plus, Ligue 1, Lyon win game and Lens... Lyon win game and Lens will still lose his rag. It's the Totally Football Show. Listener, it's Thursday the 3rd of September. You've joined us for a Euro Totally Football Show, and you have our thanks for that. James Horncastle's here.
Hello, Jimbo.
Hi, James. We've also got Julien Laurens in.
Bonjour.
And also Seb Stafford Bloor, literally in the studio.
In real life. Hello, Jimbo.
Have some of that. That's what, 3/4 of the Euro lineup 2.0 physically present.
Yeah.
And on the big screen, we've got Pol Ballús from Barcelona.
Bon dia, how are you?
Very good.
How are you?
¿Qué tal, Paul?
Muy bien, muy bien.
Excellent.
Good Spanish.
Well, thank you so
He stops
much.
there. He stops.
Yeah,
I don't think
there.
it does
Good,
stop
good.
there.
He does. He does.
No, I think James did
Go on.
Spanish in Granada.
What
didn't
follows? What follows
you-
after that?
What after qué tal? Muy bien, gracias. Sí, por supuesto.
Oh!
You've got some game in here.
Go on.
Yeah, a little bit. No, I was...
Okay. Okay.
things get a bit confused after that. Listener's
Between
not
Italian-
interested in
yeah,
my
yeah.
Spanish.
Well, I think they
Listener
are.
wants to know how everyone's holidays were, don't you, listener? And why you've come back just in time for the international break.
Me?
Well, go
Well,
on.
yeah. I mean, I thought in this new show we could do a show on international break because France play Italy, for example, on
Friday night.
So that deserves a show in itself.
Nations League.
Germany played the Dutch, massive rivalry.
Right.
So that's why I came back thinking like it's not just today, it's next week as well. But no, we'll be off again next week. But it was a really good week of holidays, to be fair.
That's nice.
Jules just wants to get paid again.
Just want to get paid. James, good break, was it?
I mean, you joined me for it. For some of it.
An hour of it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I imagine other things happened.
yeah, I was
But hey.
by the swimming pool, had some grilled octopus.
Grilled octopus.
Oh, I had some octopus as well in France.
I feel
Lovely.
bad for the octopus. They're such
Really lovely.
wise creatures.
Have you seen that? What
Yes.
is it? Yeah.
I have.
The man who falls in love with the octopus. Yeah. That did not happen. I mean,
That was not you.
no, I mean,
No.
I always
Fell
love
in love
eating
with
it.
the pol pol.
Yeah, grilled paprika on the potatoes. But I'm not going to swim down to a reef and cuddle an octopus.
Says Totally Football's James
You never know,
Horncastle. Okay. All right. Now we've cleared that up. Let me also mention that England will be getting their Nations League, for it is of that competition that we spoke. Their Nations League campaign underway. England, of course, now down in Group B.
No way.
Group
oh, was that guy Southgate, the manager at the time?
It may have been, but it's now Lee Carsley who'll be leading out England against Republic of Ireland, the side that he represented 40 times as a player. That's on Saturday. And we're not going to speak of it again in today's show, though I'm sure we'll review it in next week's
hope so.
hastily
That and the
scheduled extra
Fascinating
Euro.
Finland, England as well
International
coming up.
edition.
Can't wait for that
Can't
too.
wait for that.
Fun
Good.
little news cycle, that will be lovely.
Let's have some moments of the week, everyone. James, you've already said your octopus. Jules, what about you?
My moment of the weekend is Lassana Diabate's goal on Saturday. Nobody knows who Lassana Diabate is, and that's fair enough.
Who is he? Jules?
He's the Bordeaux goalkeeper. But even the Bordeaux fans and people at the club didn't know him a week ago because he was not part of the club. But in the 4th division, for their first game there, after they obviously were relegated for financial reasons, they were home in a new stadium because they can't play in the usual stadium. It's too expensive for them. So they played behind closed door in this tiny stadium with no fans. And their goalkeeper, Lassana Diabate, equalized in the 95th minute to get them their first ever points in the 4th division.
How did he equalise, Jules?
He went up on a last second free kick, wide free kick, and got his head on the board and scored. Amazing fairy tale, amazing story for Bordeaux.
Are they playing at their old stadium?
No, they're playing in this where another team who plays in Bordeaux, another Bordeaux club plays football and rugby, which is a nightmare to organise. They just can't afford to play in their normal stadium, which they rent to a private company, like a lot of clubs do in Europe.
Back when we used to be employed by TNT, there was a conversation we had where you said to Rafa,
Oh, yes.
is that the longest tunnel in European football?
That's right.
About Schalke.
Yeah.
It's probably Red Star.
Red
really.
Star?
But-
Well, I don't know because
No, because the
Naples.
Lescure, the Stade
Naples
Lescure.
is in there as well.
Yeah, but the Stade Lescure in Bordeaux, so the old stadium, not the new Mid-Atlantic.
Right.
The tunnel was famously really, really, really long.
Really.
Yeah.
And in a metaphorical sense, it has been 2 for Bordeaux, but they may be coming to the end of it soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Seb, your moment of the weekend.
I'm going to go Hugo Ekitike's assist for Eintracht's second goal against Hoffenheim, because he started the season as just determined to be fun. Like, I think when you have a Wunderkind who kind of drifts off the map a little bit, was devalued, didn't work out at PSG, never got the move to the Premier League, came to Eintracht, and people kind of got a little bit bored. He is playing beautifully, and this was. Do you remember the Cesc Fabregas assist for Andre Schürrle up at Burnley years and years ago? Very much like that, velvet-footed, delicate, loads of disguise, loads of flair. He's so much fun. He looks like a, I don't want to say star yet, but he's got that trajectory about him.
Paul, how about your momento de la semana?
Hey!
Oh, that's really nice. Where are you from? Are you from Sevilla or something like that?
Funnily enough, that's where I studied.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good. No. Basically, we just wanted to highlight how much of a delightful experience is to go to Vallecas. I would recommend you all to go at any point if you can, like to the Rayo Vallecano stadium. It's like just going back to time, basically going to a stadium which resembles more amateur football, where the players just park in the street outside of the stadium and they have to walk their way to the stadium surrounded by fans. Like seeing that executive box is just an experience on itself. It's just people from the barrio, from the district, from the area, just going there because they're friends of somewhere and they just gave away just to sit in the executive box. And in the middle of all this sort of like a spectrum, there's Joan Laporta and all the glamour of FC Barcelona, and seeing all that with the mix of Dani Olmo being registered just in time to get into the game and scoring a goal, scoring the winner, then going to the weekend and like Dani Olmo starting again. So it was just a mix of experience that I think that it was quite nice to see.
Excellent. Excellent. Barcelona is such a big story this weekend. We'll get into them very, very shortly. But James, something from the world of football.
When an authority figure from the outside comes in, takes a decision against its stars, and the stars react.
Oh yeah,
against that. We saw this in Rome at the weekend when Paulo Fonseca, the new Milan coach, decided to drop his 2-star players, Rafa Leao and Theo Hernandez. Milan took the lead, quite fortunately, through a corner kick. Strahina Pavlovic scored, but then they fell behind and it looked like the game was getting away from them. So Fonseca had to bring these players on. And within seconds of them coming on, they combine and score a great goal to make it 2-2. And then there's a cooling break in which Fonseca tries to have a huddle, pass on some exasperated sort of tactical instructions. But those 2-star players are on the other side of the pitch doing their own thing. A quote-unquote rebellion.
What's the reaction to him being so visceral so quickly, James?
For a few reasons. One is that the fans of AC Milan, even though they've never really had star coaches, because coaches have become stars at Milan, they're like, we should be going out and getting a grade A superstar coach. Why are we looking at a Lopetegui, a Paulo Fonseca? So there was already a disappointment. In fact, there's a chant which is at the moment at Milan, which is, we wanted Conte, Allegri, Conceição, but who gives a... We've got Fonseca. So it kind of reflects that he was their third choice, the fans' third choice.
I'm surprised they wanted Allegri back. I thought there was some ill feeling about it.
I think that's just for the rhyme in the chants. But so there's been that, and then there's this feeling that the club, because it has this slightly Moneyball-esque approach, that they're scrimping on investing in big coaches or big players, which you can debate that, but that's certainly the perception. And also in Italy's got a very proud coaching tradition where it's like the guys who go to Coverciano, our coaching school, are the best in the world. Italy's produced more Premier League winning coaches than any other nation. So why are we getting some foreign guy who did okay at Roma to come on and take take on AC Milan. So that's essentially it.
Derek at Lille as well.
Very good. He was very good. I think he's a very good coach. This might not work out for him, and so far it's been pretty underwhelming. But yeah, I think it was a bit unfair from the beginning.
Yeah, I think Pioli will be back by October, personally. But
Allegri, clearly.
I was very naive because I remember if you look at what he managed to do with some of those individual players at Lille, you'd think if you were Milan and you had a kind of that grade of talent, you'd be really excited, having not known what James has just told me. But even so,
no, but I think that's the thinking.
Yeah,
definitely. But it's asking your wider public to wrap their heads around that,
and some of the key players as well. Yeah. Okay. More on that story and so many others, including Bayer Leverkusen finally losing that unbeaten run. But we're going to begin in La Liga. All right, Pol. Barcelona, let's see. Barcelona in crisis. They've managed to mismanage themselves all the way to the hell of a perfect start, a 4-point lead already, and this weekend their biggest win in almost 8 years. What's going on?
Happy days in Barcelona. I think that it's a matter like everything in life. Like the lowest you have the expectations, I think that the better you're gonna have it. Because I don't think that many people in Barcelona could expect the team to start in that way. It's not just the result. I think that the feelings, the sensations in between like a lot of games have been really good. There's a lot of players who are starting to tick. Dani Olmo has hit the ground running since he arrived at the club. He looks like another midfielder from La Masia coming up, which in part he is, of course. But Rafinha is playing in a more central role, which suddenly fits him really well. Lewandowski is finding a way not to be that much exposed in the high pressing, but still like be relevant in the team. And then you have like Pau Cubarsí, who did a masterclass in the build-up against Valladolid on the weekend. And of course, I'm not going to forget about Lamine Yamal. If you haven't seen like the assist that he did for Rafinha's third goal, please go and look for it like online somewhere, because that was brilliant. It was this sort of a move that he started from the right flank. He cut inside, and like from the screen you were saying, you're getting yourself into trouble. That's not the movement that you should be doing. But then he just finds a way out and just sets up Rafinha like in a brilliant way. And Lamine Yamal, that we wrote a lot about him last season, and in La Liga, I can remember that he was really good, but a bit of like glimpsy, not really consistent. This season, like in 4 games, he's been involved in 5 goals. So he's putting already like the numbers, and he's providing like this sort of consistency that you expect from a veteran player.
Paul, do you think this is just a kind of early season run of favourable opponents, or are Barcelona really the team to beat this season?
Barcelona cannot be considered as the team to beat this season yet. It's been a bit of like a good run at the start of the season. They've played against Athletic Bilbao, which they are not an easy team to beat, and they went to Valencia, which is a stadium that they struggle to play in. So it hasn't been like a really easy run of fixtures, but they've sorted out quite well. But I think that, it's just a matter of like, things like clicking. I think that in the first game, the first half in Valencia wasn't that good, but result was positive for Barcelona, and that gave them this boost of confidence that at the early stages of any project, it's just what you need, basically, just to have goals going into the net. And it's just everything going well. I think that Flick has provided the team with a dose of like serenity from the bench that is really good for this team. I think that a lot of players can really engage with the manager. There was a long-standing thought inside the club, in executive I'm talking about, that the club already had like a decent group of players last season to have like better results than they had under Xavi, and that was partly one of the reasons to eventually fire Xavi, with all the drama that we know from last season, of course. But I think that Flick is trying to manage it. I think that he's being really realistic on the pressers, being like, look, I'm not going to focus on the financial side of things because I cannot be involved in that. I cannot change that. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to lose a moment of my job in this. This sort of a speech is engaging really well with the fans. I think that it helps him as well, the fact that he doesn't speak Spanish or Catalan, and he's not involved in the constant madness that the Barcelona media is. He's not listening to radios. He's not watching TVs, like probably Xavi was. And I think that it's all a group of like good signs that are coming all together for Barcelona.
It's a really exciting formation now with Olmo behind Lewandowski and Rafinha and Yamal there. And is the team freer to play exciting football than they were last season?
I think that they probably are. The distribution of the role is possibly better. As I was saying, like the attitude from the touchline, I think is helping the players out as well. Xavi was a bit more tense, I would say, really pushy with the referee. Really, it didn't like give you feelings of like being like really a serene character. But yeah, I think that the way that Olmo and Rafinha read the movements, I think that Lamine Yamal also is more mature. The connection with Jules Koundé, which is an unsung name at the back, I think that Jules Koundé is improving a lot and is being like putting himself in the top of right backs in Europe, in my opinion. It's like a lot of things coming together. I think that Barcelona are really not playing in that 4-3-3 formation that we used to see in Barcelona. It looks to me like more of a 4-2-4, more of a German gegenpressing system, in my opinion. So let's see how this unfolds. I think that it has the risk at some point for Barcelona to be a bit split. But for now, they are coping with it really, really well. Let's see how it goes.
Paul, you mentioned the system Barcelona are playing. I mean, this feels like the first time, perhaps since, I don't know, Tata Martino, that they've had a coach who's completely outside of Barcelona history and tradition. So he's got none of the baggage that comes with, I have to do what Cruyff did. My former teammate or my former coach was Pep. So he can kind of just sort of do his own thing as long as it's not too divergent from Barcelona, but he's not weighed down by all of that history and tradition, I suppose.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, it also ties up with the fact that I was saying that he doesn't speak Spanish and he's not that involved with the entorno, with the atmosphere that is surrounding Barcelona. And that's like from the footballing point of view as well, as you James were saying here. I also think that at the end of the day, this is sustained by results. I mean, if Flick had lost or had not managed to win 4 games in a row, criticism will have come because there's people waiting for this. There's people who are going to be relentless if it happens. But results were great, and the sort of excitement, the fact of seeing 7 goals in Montjuic, and just it could have been 10 if I think that they hit the post 3 times. So this sort of excitement is something that Montjuic and the Barca fans haven't seen in a while, and just for the fact of bringing that to Barcelona, he's already been really appreciated. Actually, there were chants in Montjuic of Hansi Flick, so that tells you quite the story.
Well,
Paul, can I ask how the dressing room was taken to him? Because I remember thinking, when he took the job, I remember thinking back to his time with the German national team and some of the mismanagement that occurred and what felt like a little bit of a generation gap. What's been the response to him being like?
I think it's been really good. All the young kids have seen him as a manager who has given them a chance. In pre-season, he was really relying on the young kids, and that created a really motivating atmosphere around the dressing room. I think that, I mean, with Xavi, the relationship, especially like in the last year, he was possibly too close to some players. He had shared dressing room with Sergio Roberto. He had shared dressing room with Ter Stegen. He tried to have more of a relationship as a friend with some players, and I think that Flick doesn't want that. He just wants more like the manager play a role. He's more of a straight character. Players have highlighted of the record the fact that he's really straight, that he doesn't go through the background, and he is quite honest. And so far, it's ticking quite well. Most of the players are happy. Lewandowski is really happy with him, which is a big name in the squad as well. Rafinha, who was named captain last week, is also possibly in his best time ever in Barcelona. So everything is going fine for Flick.
Excellent. The one negative note, and it is a big one, is the ACL injury to 17-year-old midfield prospect Marc Bernal. team all sporting T-shirts for him ahead of that 7-0 victory at the weekend over Valladolid. Meanwhile, it's now a 4-point margin for Barca over Real Madrid and their former Bayern Munich manager, Serenity's Carlo Ancelotti. They beat Real Betis, Real Madrid did, with Kylian Mbappé getting his first goals, Jules?
Yeah, finally. Yeah, he was waiting for it. 3 games without a goal in La Liga. He scored in the Super Cup against Atalanta, but 3 games, like he said after the game, it's a long time for him not to score in 3 games in a row. He did, great assist by Valverde, and then really good finish.
The Valverde assist. Describe it, Jules.
Yeah, it's a back heel. To be fair, and I'm the exception here, I did think that was for Vinicius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's me being a bit picky because it's a lovely assist. Whether it's for Vinicius or Kylian, Vinicius was offside, but Kylian was not. But it was great, and it's a really good finish. And then the penalty that Vinicius got, he gave the ball to Mbappe for him to get 2. So that's what he dreamed of, scoring at the Bernabeu chanting his name as well. So it was a perfect night that he'd been waiting for, as we said, 4 games now, 3 games.
All right, 36 games unbeaten for Real Madrid, that is, in La Liga. Elsewhere, Paul, drama at San Mamés as Athletic, as a sort of Spider-Man meme, Atletico.
Yeah, and with Conor Gallagher starting, playing 70 minutes, playing quite a decent game, in my opinion. And Atletico de Madrid got away with a win that, if I can be honest, I don't think that they really deserve it. It was a clear game for a draw, in my opinion, like the classic 0-0 game. Possibly Athletic Bilbao were a bit more on top of the game, more like proactive with the ball. They created the most chances. But yeah, I mean, you cannot concede anything against Atletico de Madrid, which are a team field of talent, as we know. And in the very last play of the game, basically, Íñigo Leque made a reckless mistake in the build-up, and in a counter-attack, Sorloth to Correa goal. Simeone was, quite of a happy man if you saw the celebration after the goal. And good news for an Atletico side who is still seeing Julian Alvarez struggling. I think that he's still trying to find himself in the system. He's not had any memorable game so far. Sorloth as well still needs to getting adjusted to the team, and Simeone is basically relying on the old guard with Correa here, with Koke, Pablo Barrios, the young kid from the youth ranks, who is a guy that we should keep an eye on because he's quite talented. And just the defense, basically. So Atletico de Madrid got a win that they really needed because their start of the season has been a bit trembling as well.
Okay. Anything else we should know from this weekend, Paul?
I think we're fine. I think that, I'm going to do my weekly mention of Oli McBurney because he's growing the status of a legend in Las Palmas. He's really engaging with fans of the field. Last week he was really close to score like a bicycle kick. And he's been in some podcast or in some video vlog, in somewhere in Scotland. I don't remember the page that it was, but he was really praising of the Las Palmas squad, and everyone in social media loves him. He's full of goats emojis and everything. So it's one to keep an eye on.
Okay, what color is he right now?
He's less red. Okay, so that's good. That's good.
All right.
Yeah, he is improving.
Excellent, Paul. Magnificent stuff. Enjoy your week, and look forward to catching up with you. Hey, maybe next week if we can.
We should.
Smash that like button.
I can't wait to hear about Serbia-Spain, to be fair, like everybody else.
Be honest.
Yeah.
What if Serbia were to win that?
Imagine that.
And we weren't here to talk about it.
Exactly.
Would it have happened? Still a question for you there, listener. All right, next up, thank you so much, Paul. We're going to hit the Bundesliga.
It's been a pleasure.
Woo. What's next? Hey, it's the Bundesliga. And ladies and gentlemen, a moment of applause, if you will, for Bayer Leverkusen's incredible 35-game unbeaten streak. It's over, but wasn't it magnificent?
It was 40.
I was having a moment of applause there, Seb.
Oh, okay. We can do that.
All right.
I wasn't sure how that was going to play on a.
Well, I mean, I think it would be awkward if we didn't. Woof. Seb.
Jimbo.
What happened against RB Leipzig and what happens now?
Right. Well, not too much was different. Leverkusen into a 2-0 lead after 45 minutes. Very sloppy goal given away on the stroke of half time to Kevin Campbell. And then after the break, there was not an inevitability, but you started to see some vulnerabilities. You started to see the gaps behind Jonathan Tah and the kind of the spaces that Luis Openda in particular was running into. And Leverkusen didn't seem to have control of the game. 2-1 became 2-2. Openda running through, finishing from a tight angle. And then 3-2. Openda with, on top of probably what was his best Bundesliga performance to date, just fabulous all-round contribution in conjunction with Šeško, fired in from the edge of the box, 3-2. I think what happens next is nobody should overreact because Leverkusen played well. Leverkusen created the better chances. They controlled the ball. Also,
65% possession,
65%,
26 shots on goal. So the end of the game was very much classic Bayern looking for that equaliser.
It just didn't come. That was the difference.
And what was the scene at the final whistle then?
Like Leipzig had won a Champions League semi-final. They were bench emptying, subs onto the pitch. And actually, it felt significant. Kevin Campbell said afterwards, we got to use this. Like, I think Rose's Leipzig have always been seen the last couple of years as a very capricious team. Can't trust them, can never really trust them in this kind of game. Quietly, though, they haven't lost since February. And the last time they were beaten was by Bayern Munich.
Next unbeaten team. This is
Maybe.
it.
Wait,
the mantle passes.
13 games. So we, and I think all in all, Leverkusen managed 463 days unbeaten in Germany. So Leipzig have got some way to go. But yeah, there was some celebration. What I will say is, remember last season, these games were tight. Both of them finished 3-2. And Leverkusen needed to dig deep to win them. Also, Leverkusen did last season have these periods, 20, 30 minutes in games where they would lose concentration, perhaps some of their inexperience would show, and there would be lulls. The difference being that Leverkusen would find the 98th minute winner or equaliser and no one would talk about it. And so the difference really here was probably just efficiency, Jimbo.
Okay.
Seb, wider reception is Fizzy Drinks Club beats Big Pharma.
Yeah.
So were people outside of Leverkusen and Leipzig indifferent towards the run? Were they like, glad to see it's over, kind of, rather than sorry to see it over?
I think last season, James, there was definitely a tipping point reached where it became, I'm kind of glad it's not all about Bayern to, but it's a biopharmaceutical company, right? There's no question, though, that in the kind of the popularity hierarchy, Leipzig are quite a lot lower. Just because Leverkusen do have history as a football club and they do have heritage, they're not a construct in the same sense. And so there's that's something different, but oh God, it's not quite what we want.
Who's the most hated team in Germany?
Leipzig. I'll be Leipzig.
Followed by?
There isn't really a second place, but I think there is still a lot of, depending on what your political philosophy is, Hansa Rostock not too popular because of some of the behaviour of their fans.
Okay.
But Wolfsburg, Leverkusen, Hoffenheim.
Yeah,
the thing is, Hoffenheim, very easy to ignore. So they tend not to be very prominent, and it tends to be, the hatred tends to be aimed towards individual people at the club.
Right.
That's rather than the club itself. Yeah, more personal.
Okay. Leipzig, one of 3 teams on maximum points. They're not missing Dani Olmo, who we just heard about, and his exploits at Barcelona. One of 3 sides, as I say, who've won both games so far, along with Vincent Kompany's Bayern Munich, who beat Freiburg 2-0. Goals from Harry Kane, and what a goal from Thomas Muller, by the way.
Fairy tale, right? Because Muller comes on to break the all-time appearance record. With his first touch, takes the ball out of the sky, sets it for a second, scores. And it was a fairly ordinary game of football. Wasn't particularly impressive. I think also it was kind of changed by a very kind of UEFA-ish penalty in the first half, which altered the game. But a lovely moment. And it's interesting, I'm doing a piece of work on Muller at the moment. You can't find anyone say a bad word about him as a person. As a player, fine, people can nitpick his technique and all these kind of things. But one of the most interesting things that someone at the club said to me recently was, Thomas Muller would be a star nowhere other than in Bavaria and at Bayern Munich. And when you think about that, it's kind of true. Like, forgetting the fact that he came up through the club, I think his kind of local symbolism, what he means to the club, the way he behaves, it resonates with people. And it's his career has occurred at a very important time for Bayern, where they're kind of trying to shed some of that FC Hollywood stuff that exists in the media, some of the melodrama. Muller is uncomplicated, right? He turns up, plays, he's a pretty ordinary human being. He's not affected by fame or what he's managed to achieve, which is everything, right?
He's got a great sense of humour.
He does have a great sense of humour. He is very good with the media. He's very forthright and honest, and he's perfect. He's Yeah, it's a great
How,
moment.
how much longer have we got of Thomas Muller, the player, do you think?
Just in my opinion, I think this might be the last year.
And would he move upstairs?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's too valuable as a local commodity, and he means too much locally. You see also little things like when Kane arrived at the club, Muller is there with him, almost a kind of it's almost a vouching for moment, right? And yeah, it's unthinkable that he would be anything other than an ambassador. Maybe work at the Bayern campus, possibly. I don't know, but yeah, we're moving towards that, I think.
Meantime, 710 competitive matches now for the Bavarians and counting. As I say, there were 3 teams who won both their games so far. The one that's on top of the league right now, with 2 wins from 2, 6 goals scored and none, 0 conceded, are Heidenheim.
Yeah.
Heidenheim, 4-0 winners over Augsburg. Heidenheim, who Chelsea are going to be playing, I think, in November in the Conference League.
Yeah, and who Chelsea need to be very, very wary of.
Ooh.
They will turn up there. They'll go all the way up the hill. I think it's the highest point in the Bundesliga.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I've
How
walked
high
in,
is it?
It's high enough that
Ecuadoria style.
La Paz.
it's stop in the middle of the climb high.
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 40 years old and not in the best condition, so read
Right.
into that what you may. But it's
Chelsea squad younger.
yeah,
Yeah.
more sprightly. Got a bit more energy, a bit more preparation.
Might
for it.
take a motor vehicle as well.
But
yeah.
It's worth remembering. We talked about this a little bit last week. Over the summer, Frank Schmidt, Heidenheim's coach, who's taken them from the 5th tier of German football to the Bundesliga to the Conference League, he lost 30 of the goals of the 50 total that they scored in the Bundesliga. Tim Kleindienst went to Gladbach. Jan-Nicky Beste went to Benfica, which was a strange move. Probably one of the best set-piece takers in the Bundesliga. Eren Dingchi, who was on loan from Werder Bremen, went back and then was sold to Freiburg. And he has, with almost no budget at all, based in the attacking sense around Paul Vanna from Bayern Munich, who's really one of the coming forces in German football. People at Bayern love him and are really, really optimistic about where he may go. Schmidt has created not just a hard-working team, which they were last season, and very kind of stoic defensively. They played some really good football against Augsburg, and their patterns are elaborate and fun. And Frank Schmidt, as a person, is a delight. I went to meet him last year, and he was showing me pictures of his horses and his dogs at home, and the photo and the video he took from inside the team coach when they arrived back at their stadium after winning promotion, with all the fans outside and the flares and the players dancing around him. He's a delight. And in any other season, when Leverkusen didn't happen, he would have been the coach of the year, unquestionably.
Thomas Muller likes horses as well, no?
Does indeed.
So is this the barometer of a good German? Do they like horses?
Yeah, in that part of the world, because it's not quite Bavaria, but it almost is. So it's maybe, like just decency. I think that's the commonality maybe.
Very
Between
nice.
Yeah.
Right, so there you go. Heidenheim high in so many ways, geographically, but also in the Bundesliga table at the moment.
There's also can I shout out the Schloss in Heidenheim?
Oh, yeah.
You go to the place and tricky to get to because you have to take a few different trains. But there's a Schloss at the top of the hill which looks down upon the town.
Yep.
It's excellent Instagram fodder.
Okay.
You get the chance to go. Yeah.
Very nice.
When you said take a few having had 5 weeks in Germany, that's
I became a national
German
hate
trains.
figure because of my train commentary. I have nothing else to say about this.
Front page of Bild,
Yeah.
Seb's face.
Big X through it.
I would be watching the Euros in my hotel
You're
room.
the RB Leipzig of Germany.
I have been in that. Cynical, constructed just to find negativity in German society.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, that's enough of all that kind of thing, Seb, unless there's anything else we should know about the Bundesliga.
SB Leipzig.
I would say not the Bundesliga, but Joshua Kimmich is new captain of Germany.
Okay.
Call up for Angelo Stiller from Stuttgart, who I want people to look out for.
Okay.
Good player.
Very, very nice. On the subject of the Euro draw, which took place last Thursday,
The Champions League draw, you mean?
Champions League and then the Friday was the Conference and Europa League draw. You're right, Jules. Some interesting matchups there. The new league format. I'm so excited about the changes this year. Of course, Xavi Alonso with freshly beaten Bayern will be returning to Anfield with
Yes, indeed.
with Leverkusen. Holders Real Madrid also drew Liverpool in this new league format. PSG, Jules, did they get the hardest group of teams
Yeah, I
of
think
all?
so. Which is not a bad thing. I think it's great. You get straight into it. They've got
Bayern.
Arsenal away, Bayern away, City at home, Atletico Madrid at home.
Yeah.
So
PSV. You've also got PSV. They're off to
yeah,
a
there's
flyer
four massive games, and then the four others like Girona, PSV,
Right.
Stuttgart, and the fourth one I can't remember.
Don't know.
Are more, more doable if you want. But yeah, the four big ones would be fantastic. 2 home, 2 away. It's great.
All right. People are very excited about Aston Villa Bayern. European Cup rematch from 1982.
It's an Aston Villa Juve as well, which is
Yeah.
a big game from the kind of Platini era.
Yeah. And 3 Anglo-Italian matchups on match day 1. Man City, Inter, Milan, Liverpool, and Atalanta, Arsenal. Which one are you going to, James?
I think I'm doing 2 of those.
Oh, yeah.
Milan, Liverpool, and Atalanta, Arsenal.
Atlanta
Very
Arsenal
nice.
sounds like it'd be great.
Yeah.
should be really good.
Atalanta's form at the moment.
No good.
Well,
we'll get on-
Gasperini, we'll
Yeah.
get onto that.
We'll get onto that. Okay. Do you want to talk about Europa League draw? Nah. No, okay. We'll get onto that very shortly, in fact, because next up it is Serie A. All right, Jules. How's it going over there?
Yeah, great. It's fascinating chat.
Nice. Big games this weekend in Italy, as you know.
I watched them all, so yeah, especially the Juve Roma that everybody said, wow, what a cracker we have on our hands.
Uh-huh.
Worst game I saw this weekend. Even Dortmund were better.
Do you
All
remember?
Dortmund were bad.
do you
But
remember
it was
a
not
few
as bad as Juve Roma, trust me.
Do you remember a few years ago, footage emerged of like this kind of late 80s, early 90s QPR game, and it went viral because it was like the worst passage to play in football history.
And the one with the body's in the air all the time. No,
Everyone just
something
keeps
like that.
punting into the sky.
So there was a TikTok that was then reposted on Twitter yesterday of a passage of play from this Juve Roma game where the ball never hits the ground. And there probably is it's a sequence of like 9 or 10 hoofs. And yeah, I think that summed up that game, which I think as one columnist in La Repubblica said, if an alien had come down and was watching that game at the Allianz Stadium, they wouldn't, if they was told that Max Allegri and Jose Mourinho were still the coaches of those teams, they would believe it if the alien was aware of Max Allegri and Jose Mourinho's football.
They surely are.
Yeah, sure.
Surely are. Okay, that was 0-0. A draw as well between Lazio and Milan, some of the fallout from which we were discussing before. Inter, meanwhile, took on your friends Atalanta and beat them 4-0
Again.
The
And
Barella
Napoli won a
goals.
game.
Oh, goodness me.
So I've got lots of questions. How did Napoli beat Parma? How good are champions Inter? And kind of one we touched on already, how much trouble is Paulo Fonseca in? And what about Osimhen and his move from Napoli to Galatasaray, which was confirmed only yesterday? Should we talk about Napoli-Parma first of all then?
Yeah. I mean, Napoli had bounced back from the opening day defeat, the big shock. We melted like
Snow in the sun.
snow in the sun with that good win against Bologna. And then in this game, it was kind of a repeat of what we saw against Verona. Should say that Parma have started the season really well.
They played well, yeah.
Newly promoted.
They're good.
They're under American ownership. And when the American Karl Kraus came in, he spent loads of money on these players from all over the world, and they never gelled. But they've been together now for 3 years, and they've got a good coach in Fabio Pecchia who keeps getting teams up. And then
Former Napoli man, of course.
former Napoli man. And Pecchia, usually when he gets a team up, he basically says, look, I'm the guy who gets teams up. I'm not the guy who keeps them up.
Not the fluffer.
Exactly. Boogie Nights Jimbo there. But he did stay around because I think he knows he's onto a good thing with Parma. And they've got a lot of youth, freshness. The guy who scored the opening goal, which was a penalty, Bonny.
He's the young French guy. He looks a good player, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
very talented player.
It's good.
And the Romanians either side, Denis Man and Mihaila, really good as well. So they took the lead through the penalty. They should have taken the lead earlier because
Right.
they had a header that hit the bar. And it was only when Zion Suzuki, your probably favourite player in Serie A at the moment, given your Japanese lessons. It was only when he got sent off for a second yellow.
A crazy, you'd call it a kamikaze challenge, but that might be indelicate.
Yeah, I mean, he got the ball, but he also took out David
Yeah.
Neres, who had
Yeah.
a bad night.
Bad night.
Very bad night for
David
him.
Neres, I mean, after having this kick to, it felt like his lower abdomen, shall we say, Sort of, he then, obviously they come back and win, which we'll get to. But
And he crosses the ball for the winner.
Crosses the ball for Anguissa's winner. But in the people carrier that Napoli put on to take him back to his hotel, 2 mopeds drew either side, smashed the window, and said, "Can we have your watch, please?" Whilst pointing a gun to his face. So, but that was an hour after the events we're talking about, which was this incredible comeback.
And wild celebrations after, but you did kind of wonder whether they should be celebrating quite so wildly, given that had Suzuki not been sent off and they've had to put an outfield player in goal because they used all their subs, I mean, any keeper would have saved, I think, both shots. Lukaku with his first goal, Lukaku would come on.
Well, Enrico Del Prato, the defender who went in goal, he did get something on to that Lukaku shot, but it was just so fierce.
It's a bit of a business decision from him. It felt like
But I suppose obviously now Napoli have won 2 of their 3 games. They've made all of these signings. They've spent 138 million net because I think they were expecting to get 80 million for Osimhen. They didn't. We'll get to that. But I think this game was actually quite worrying because yes, they won it. But again, they needed things to go their way. They needed the goalkeeper to be sent off, and Parma have to not play with a goalkeeper for, in the end, half an hour in order to win the game. And that midfield at the moment with Lobotka and Anguissa, it looks like it needs an extra man in there.
What if
McTominay?
What if that extra man was Billy Gilmour?
Could be Billy Gilmour. I mean, I think Gilmour will probably be one of the players that plays off Romelu Lukaku with Kvaratskhelia, for example, rather than deeper in midfield. But I think that midfield needs to be more robust. It needs more ballast. And so, we've so far seen Conte play a similar way to how he did at Chelsea and Spurs, which was to have one striker and then kind of 2 guys who are usually used to playing out wide, playing off them, which he'd never done in Italy before. But maybe we'll see them go with, I don't know, McTominay, Lobotka and Anguissa, and a little man off Lukaku.
I see.
Which, it could be Gilmour as a link player. It could be Raspadori, who likes to play off a big man. So let's see how this team evolves.
Okay. Very much so. It will be evolving without Victor Osimhen, who they were finally able to dispatch on loan to Galatasaray. Galatasaray are tremendously excited about this signing.
They are. I mean, Victor Osimhen has spoken repeatedly over the last year about how growing up in Lagos, Didier Drogba was such a hero to him. And that led many people to believe that his preference would be to go to Chelsea. Who were in talks with Napoli on deadline day and then decided, no, we can't do this. And yet he's still going to a club where Drogba is a legend, which is Galatasaray, which I don't think would be high on his order of preferences a year ago when I think he was considering his future. But it was the only option at the end because he didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, even though Al Ahly were prepared to pay him a lot of money, although Al Ahly were not prepared to pay, I think, what Napoli wanted for the player. And Osimhen, I think, has had to underwrite an option in his contract to roll it on another year at Napoli, so it protects his value. I think the buyout clause in the contract that he signed back in December is being rewritten because it was ludicrously high, 130 million. But at the time, you could see Kane, for example, who's significantly older, significantly more consistent than Osimhen, went for 100 million. You had, Saudi Arabia, for example, at that time was spending a lot of money on players. And so you can see why Napoli went with that figure at the time. But it's now just completely unrealistic. And it's one of the reasons why they weren't able to move him. And they've had to find this workaround, which is sending him on loan to Galatasaray, who'll just pay his wages from now until the end of the season.
Elsewhere, the Milanese, James, we touched on the 2-2 draw at the Stadio Olimpico between Lazio and Milan and what that might mean. Should mention, actually, Tammy Abraham, who had the assist, actually, on Milan's equaliser, the second one, no?
Yeah, seconds after coming on his debut. Likes to play against Lazio. When he was at Roma, he scored the quickest ever goal in in the Derby della Capitale. And, he must have been on the pitch 30 seconds when he set up Rafa Leao's equaliser. But yeah, Tammy, very much not the story.
Although there is a question here from Tom Johnson. Hello, Tom, who says, what on earth are Roma doing selling Bove, Smalling and Tammy? Is it PSR? Feels like they're going backwards despite a decent draw against Juve. He enjoyed it as well. I'll let you.
Roma?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bove is homegrown, so that's pure profit.
Right.
Although they've sent him out on loan. So that, in some respects, is a bit of a failure.
Okay, but Smalling and Tammy to Milan?
Smalling's
gone to Saudi, right, yeah.
Yeah, Smalling's gone to Saudi because they tried to send Paulo Dybala there and were unsuccessful, so they've got at least one Saudi club to pay them money for someone who's frequently injured and unable to play. And they signed Hermoso, who was a free agent from Atletico after the deadline, to replace him. And then Tammy is a kind of a straight swap with Salamakers. I think that is again a consequence of them trying to bring the wage bill down because Tammy is paid a lot of money. And Roma signed the Pichichi from La Liga in the summer, Artem Dovbyk, who's yet to score.
Yeah.
And Roma are yet to win. But PSR, yes. Serie A doesn't have PSR. It has a liquidity index. But they have spent more than 100 million without really bringing a lot of money in. And so this is one of the reasons why you've seen this sudden flurry to just, Saudi window's still open. Chris, are you willing to go UFO watching there? Fantastic.
Are there a lot of UFOs in Saudi?
Chris Smalling has been known to Instagram, or his wife has been known to Instagram about UFO sightings.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
A lot of alien chat.
They believe
today.
a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. They've come to see Jose Mourinho's football.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
So there is that, and then Tammy, I think, is a good loan option for Milan. Who they've obviously got Morata, but Morata's quickly got injured, and I think they liked Tammy before he went to Roma, but it's kind of I think they're going to have to ease Tammy in, even though he made that instant impact. Because let's not forget, he only came back from his very bad knee injury in April.
Right.
So
okay, we got Jules standing by with Ligue 1. Is that you mentioned that's not the big story? Are we heading back to the Paulo Fonseca cooling break standoff? Or?
Well, no, I mean, So we talked about that cooling break standoff, and then the fallout from it, because it's led to some comparisons with what happened to Rudi Garcia at Napoli last year, when Victor Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia and Politano kind of openly showed dissent to his sort of in-game decision-making. And we all know what happened to Garcia. I think Milan are a lot less knee-jerk than Napoli and De Laurentiis. And so I think they will be patient and hope that this comes together. Because a lot of these teams, Juventus, Roma, Milan, Napoli, have brought in so many players that we only get a partial vision of what these teams might be like at this moment in time. So I think we need to give Fonseca time to work with those players.
Okay.
And then obviously Leao afterwards posted a photo of Paolo Di Canio doing the Roman salute with no explanation. And so I think to anyone outside of Italy watching that, they're like, oh, right, does this guy like Paolo Di Canio's politics? But Di Canio, he effectively goes on the match of the day in Italy, and he was very critical of Leao and Theo for their rebellion.
Right.
I don't think he said anything that was too out of line. It's just Paolo's way of, he's quite aggressive in his debating.
I see.
Way. So he was like, they totally delegitimized the coach there, and this was Leao's response to it, which was to remind everyone of how Paolo Di Canio used to celebrate goals.
Indeed. All right, quick shout for Inter, who, while other teams struggle to find their shape, are already purring Absolutely magnificent performance against Atalanta, particularly the Barella goal.
Yeah, Scholes-esque. It was described. He scores a lot of Paul Scholes goals. Does Barella? And yeah, I mean, some of the football that Inter played was
Mesmeric.
Exactly.
Marcus Thuram now on 4 goals in 3.
Yeah, I just wish he could score for France now as well.
Anyone could score for France. This is
Particularly when
dad
they play
plays
Italy,
for France.
which they'll be doing on Friday.
I think they'll have no problem scoring against Italy.
Yeah.
Should mention maybe Torino as well.
Okay,
Torino won
then.
again.
I've not read much about them this week, so what's been going on? Top of the table. Well, almost, just behind.
Yeah, but they've been great under Paolo Vanoli, who's become like this instant like cult hero because he called out the owner for selling a player without his knowledge, which led to these protests. So the fans are already on side with him. He's with us. He's one of us. And then he was talking about how he'd confiscated his players' phones during transfer deadline day because he didn't want them to be distracted. They deserve to beat Milan on the opening day. They beat his old team Venezia, who he got promoted, and he is this kind of Antonio Conte ex-assistant who seems to be playing better football than his kind of erstwhile master.
Nice.
So yeah.
Well, all right, we'll keep an eye on Torino. They're due a bit of a run. And next up, Jules, at last.
At
Liga.
last.
The best to last.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes the sun goes round the
I knew this
moon.
was coming.
Sometimes the snow comes down in June.
What is that? Why? I don't
Just
know
when
this
I
song.
thought our time had passed, you
Go
got
and
to save the
save
best till
the
last.
best.
It's Liga, everybody.
Okay.
Liga on fire.
It's the soundtrack to a Coca-Cola advert.
Is it?
Is
It
it?
was,
Ah,
back in the
yeah.
day.
I'm available.
Yeah.
You've got
All
a
right.
lot of time.
So
Oh,
it's funny because it's true.
But so is he judging how long he's waited for this Liga chat.
That's
Yeah.
Jules.
I went first last week. I was lucky.
There you go. But it was a big weekend in Liga.
It was
9
nice.
matches, 37 goals, only one draw in there, and arguably the game of the weekend anywhere on the continent in that crazy Friday night thriller between Lyon and Strasbourg.
Yeah, it was great. Lyon won 4-3. They hadn't won all season, so they had to win. Really, they were under
They didn't
pressure.
look like they were going to win, though, did they?
They were 3-1 down after an hour, and then they scored 3 goals in the space of 12 minutes. Number 69 was not involved in this kind of upside down, comeback for Lyon. But like I said, was Malik Fofana who's such a
Right.
great talent, and yet he's not consistent enough, I think, to be a starter and a superstar yet. But he will get there soon. And Gift Orban, who is a bit similar to Malik Fofana in the sense that he's very inconsistent. You can't really rely on him too much, but when he's on it, like he was on Friday night, he's great. And I feel a bit for Strasbourg and Liam Rosinho because they played really well, and they are a very attacking side. They're just very young, very naive, a bit unbalanced defensively. But well done to Lyon. The atmosphere was incredible as well.
Chelsea 2.
Yeah, a bit like Chelsea.
No outfield players named by manager Liam Rossegna over the age of 22. None of them.
None of them. Yeah, and
Wow.
it showed a bit because I 3-1 up, even away from home. They were really good at times. They were a bit under pressure in the second half of the first half, but they should have closed the game. And
Okay.
they didn't. They left it open. They kept attacking at 3-1 up, and they didn't really need to. And I think they will learn hopefully a lot from, and Liam too, because this is all new still to him. But for Lyon, this was a massive win in a night on transfer deadline there where they signed Wilfried Zaha, which we don't
on
really
loan.
know why, on loan, yeah.
Right, from Galatasaray.
To replace Enes Nuama, who they thought was going to leave and ended up staying. He didn't want to leave. John Textor almost forced him to go to England. He cried during his medical for Fulham. He said, I don't want to go to Fulham.
terrible.
Yeah. So in
So
the
what
end,
happened?
he escaped.
What, literally?
He
Kind of dug a
literally
tunnel out
left
of
the hospital.
Right.
Nobody knew where he was, not even his agent. And he never reappeared. So they had to cancel he could not sign. They had to cancel the transfer.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, John Textor then
the
apologised.
Kind of medical photo you want. Instead of just the thumbs up, you just got a guy in floods of tears, like with a with an open window in the background, possibly. But,
Maybe so.
Yeah.
That's a heart-rending
For
story.
me, it's one of the stories of not just transfer deadline day, but the whole transfer window.
I think it transcends football, Jules. What was his issue with Fulham per se?
He just wanted to stay in Lyon. He was
Okay.
about to buy a house. He
Yeah.
was very happy. He loves the city. I think his family too. So he's like, I don't want to move now. He said something very true though. He said, if I had wanted to go from Denmark, where it was a Michelin, to England, I could have gone straight away. He wanted to come to Lyon for like a midway
Intermediary
platform.
step.
Yeah. Which I think is a very smart move instead of going straight from Scandinavia to England, where we've seen a lot of young players. It's just too soon, too high for them. So I like that, and I think he wanted a bit more of Lyon and Ligue before making the big jump to England.
So, how did he get to the position where he was in a medical
Eurostar.
at Fulham? Yeah,
No. The Fulham medical staff
they
came to Lyon.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
No. John Textor apologized.
Okay.
Wrote him a letter. I mean, John Textor is the weirdest, surely one of the weirdest owner. If you follow him for Botafogo and his own website, if you even follow what happens with Crystal Palace and his shares there and Everton, the possibility of him buying Everton, he's weird. He's weird. So he wrote him a letter to apologize after forcing him to accept the move to Fulham, or then he tried to move him to Everton. So he's going to stay. And the problem is now with Zaha and Benrahma and Fofana and even Orban, there's so many wide players that I'm not sure how much he's going to play. But I love the fact that he just escaped and left the building and nobody knew where he was because he didn't want to sign for Fulham.
Right.
I love how this is the new Jules dig. In the past it was like the Dutch guy, this sort of thing, and now he's gone all kind of Democrats saying
Against
John
John Textor.
Textor's weird.
But John Textor is asking for it.
Jules, did you say that after the Fulham deal collapsed, he tried to sell him to Everton?
Yeah, so to his own club. So, for example, Aurel Mangala, who was at Forest and went to Lyon, didn't really work out for him, is on loan to Everton. And John Textor put on Instagram, "You look so nice. You look great in blue, Aurel. Good luck." Which is, again, like it doesn't
Nice.
really...
It's quite Randy Lerner-ish. Do you remember the old Randy Lerner statements that used to come out of Villa, which were real journeys, like odysseys of writing? It's there's quite a similar vein
Yeah.
there.
Textor is sort of nominative determinism if he's kind of posting with these.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's quite the story, and that was quite the match. Lyon picking up 3 points, which moves them out of the bottom three. Elsewhere, Jules, top four were playing each other last weekend. You had Will Still's Lens at Monaco, where they got a point, and Will Still got very shirty to wit. And then he shouts, "Yo, you shut up!" Cracker, I think I got most of that. My French is improving, Jules.
It is improving. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's better to speak to Adi Hutter in English than it is in French.
That makes sense.
And Will Still being obviously...
Why was he so upset? Because he was kind of fortunate to take a point from this game.
No, I don't think so. No, I thought it was a really good game on a really terrible pitch, which is a shame because they're two really good teams, to be fair. Lost on the back of being somehow knocked out by Panathinaikos in the Conference League playoff, a game where they easily could have won 3-1 or 4-1. So that was a bad one. And we kind of feared a little bit for them in Monaco under the massive heat too. But they played really well. They hit the post at 0-0. There was a lot of VAR calls. But in the end, I think the draw is probably fairish. And Will Still was not happy that Adi Hutter was talking to his players from the touchline. So he said, "Hey, talk to your players, not mine." Adi Hutter responded, hence the shut up.
Okay, so fair enough.
Yeah. And I like. I mean, Will Still has done great so far for Lens.
Right.
Apart from that Panathinaikos disappointment, let's put it that way. And maybe, although he said I would not change anything if we had to do it again, but maybe it was just a little bit naive considering they won the first leg and they didn't have to. Maybe left themselves too exposed like they did in that second leg.
The other two teams who were off to perfect starts were Lille and Paris Saint-Germain, and they played each other. How'd that go, Jules?
Sunday night, PSG won 3-1, which is not really a reflection certainly of the end of the game. The interesting thing is, talking about discipline and Leao and Theo, there was a few issues at Lille as well on Saturday night because Jonathan David, Remy Cabella, and another couple of players didn't show up for the team dinner.
Oh.
Yeah, and the president, Olivier Leton, and Pep Genesio, the coach, were not happy at all. So they benched him. And I think, okay, Cabella maybe, but Jonathan David is their best player. So you play PSG in Lille in a massive game without your best player. He came on late, but that was not enough. Although after he came on, that was probably the best period of time. They came back from 2-0 down to 2-1, and then they should have, and then they should have had a second goal. And this is a big controversy of the weekend. Their goal was disallowed for offside when Thiago Santos was onside, and VAR didn't change the referee. No, didn't ask the referee to come and check the screens and tell him you made a mistake here.
Do they not have SOUT, semi-automated offside?
We don't have yet, no.
Okay, so now, actually, thank you so much for mentioning it. Well, we'll come on to Sal in a second or two. But Jules, what was the reason that they didn't turn up for the... Is there some significant kind of unrest behind that?
No, I don't think so. I just don't think they fancied it, really.
Where were they eating?
I suspect at the team's hotel.
Okay.
So it was after the team talk from Genesio. And I don't know, really. I don't know the reason. There might be a reason, and I'm not aware of yet. I haven't been told yet.
Okay.
But yeah, on one hand, I understand the sanctioning because I think for those things, whether you're late for a team talk, a training, dinner, whatever, I think you have to, or a bit like what Paulo Fonseca did to a certain extent. But he's still, especially for David, he's still your best player. So it was a brave decision from Genesio and from the club. And to be fair, the end is quite cagey for PSG because they were in control for most of the game. Then at 2-1, then the potential 2-2. And even after that, Lille had more chances before the third goal from PSG, really late from Colomboigny. It was not bad from PSG. They were outstanding at time, and Barcola was, again, incredible. But yeah, the end, and especially on set pieces, the vulnerability showed that they were maybe a little bit lucky to get that win.
Okay, well, they're the only team in Liga with a 100% record. Their unbeaten run away from home continues. How long is it now, Jules? Since they lost a game
Yeah, I
away?
think maybe we're on 21.
Okay.
Something like
Very
that.
nice.
Yeah.
13 goals scored. The only team who's done better than that in the last 50 years of Liga was PSG. Perhaps you've heard of them. A couple of years ago under the French guy.
The French guy, indeed.
Christophe Gauthier.
Yeah.
Oh, now, well, I've got a question here, and so does DJ Dash on the subject of SOUT, semi-automated SOUT.
SOUT.
Yeah. He says, Soz, if I've missed you discuss this, please could you discuss auto offside? Why are some countries embracing it while the English Prem is not? Looked like it worked well at Euros. So,
It's coming to England.
It is coming.
Yeah,
they just needed some weeks
Next
to get all
month,
the cameras in place. Madness to be starting a season without all your pieces sorted out and all your decisions made. Premier League probably the only organisation to be doing that, I would imagine.
They're all out of Stockley Park.
It must be the area.
Yeah. So, but France not having...
No. I think it's down to money as well now.
Really?
It's very expensive. Yeah, it's expensive. If you
Is
have
it?
VAR, I think it is, yeah.
But strangely, like Italy, for example, they led the way with VAR. Well, I mean, they were one of the, I think, the first top 5 league to put it online, maybe with the Bundesliga. And the same with semi-automatic offside. They had this.
They tried it at Udinese, didn't they?
Yeah, but they had it 2 years ago, I think. Or it's been at least in effect for 18 months. It actually came in after the Qatar World Cup.
Right.
They used that break and then they put it online when the teams came back from that. But the Premier League's like this. It's got this. I mean, it's almost like there's an island and it has an island mentality where it's like, okay, well,
You have to do differently.
it's almost like there's been a kind of mistrust of anything that happens on the continent.
VAR was a season or two late here, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Happy days. Very good. My question about Lille was about Angel Gomez, who got that call up for England's...
He's a lovely player.
We'll be talking more about him in our Euro roundup next
week,
Tuesday.
for sure. Although he got injured, I'm not sure if he's.
Really? We won't be.
Well, he had concussion. Remember we mentioned that on our first show. Then he came back for that game. Came off at half time. I mean, wonderful, intelligent. The football IQ in him is incredible. He's for somebody who's so small in size to be bossing games from midfield when everybody's looking for a Rodri or Rice, those big number 6.
Yeah.
For him to do it is just beautiful to watch. So,
Speaking of people who are small in size and Panathinaikos.
Okay.
Friend of mine, his club has gone all the way up from the 3rd division to the top flight in Greece.
Okay.
Called
Did he
Athens Kalithea.
Oh yeah, he signed Valbuena, no?
So this is the thing. So like, I mean, if anyone fell in love with Venezia's jerseys over the last few years, the guy who designed them is now with Athens Kalithea.
Okay.
They have these fantastic jerseys as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But they got this 2-2 draw against Panathinaikos at the weekend, in which Matthew Valbuena came off the bench and got, I think, the equaliser. And my buddy, he said, look at this is great, we've got a 3rd division coach, mostly 3rd division team. So I went online and I watched the highlights, and I was like, hang on, it's not Matthew Valbuena.
He's 37 or 38 now, I think.
yeah.
Something
Surely
like
he's
that.
older than
Yeah,
that.
little bike.
Yeah, first tape I've seen of Valbuena since the
That tape. Since that tape.
Well, it was worth it. Worth it for that, James. Hey, speaking of Englishmen playing in Liga,
Yeah.
Mason
I know.
Greenwood continues to do it. Is it 5 in 3 now?
Yeah.
So
It is.
only Erling Haaland's got more than that at the start of the season. He got
Incredible.
2 in the 3-1 win over Toulouse. Could have had a hat-trick.
Yeah.
How he missed that
I
final
know,
chance.
should have had, yeah. 2
Yeah.
in 2 minutes as well. Well, 1 minute even. Incredible. They play so well. They're so good. And even after that, the Zerbi, they dropped 2 points, if you remember, against Reims when they were a bit unfortunate. So they should have had 3 wins like PSG. And the Zerbi is still saying there's a lot of work to do. We can be better than this, which I think he's right.
I hear you, Jules. It's a complex one. Marseille, one of 4 teams on 7 points, 2 behind PSG as we head into the international break and that big game
Really.
against Italy on Friday night.
Friday night. And then France-Belgium on Monday.
Is that right? On Monday?
So on Tuesday next week when we
Tuesday,
come, when
what
we
a
have the
show
show.
we could be-
Exactly. We'll have, you know.
Listen,
Looking
if you
forward to
want a little bit of that,
Netherlands,
I'm
Germany
not
as well.
kidding. Get on at the Totally Football Show
Yeah.
on your socials. Let Uber producer Ben Green know.
Yeah. And
Come on,
producer
Ben,
Charlie
make it
Jones
happen.
as well.
And producer
Charlie's
Lucy.
always
And
up for
producer
it.
Lucy now,
Yeah.
Rachel, everybody
Listen,
involved
producer
here.
Lucy.
Anyone at the Athletic.
It
really.
shall
Yeah,
be
really.
Ben Green who's calling the shots on this one.
Is he?
Yeah. Oh, and you can drop TNT a line as well while you're like. Anyway, nice. That's it for today's show. So many thanks for being with us, Seb Stafford Bloor. Lovely to see you, Jules.
Thank
nice
you.
to have you back, all bronzed.
Yes.
James Horncastle and Pol Ballús earlier on. Lucy and Rachel in the booth, and you listener. We return, not sure when. But fingers
Maybe
crossed,
next
eh?
week, maybe in 2 weeks.
Maybe. But for now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.